Well, you covered it. This is my 15th year in real estate. I started out on a team in a different market center. I've always been with KW. Found my way to DPR maybe 5 or so years ago, and I wish I had moved over to this location much sooner. And Ben Baker, you're one of the key reasons why I came over here. I just want you to know that. When I was asking around, in the KW ecosphere, everybody kept saying you got to talk to Ben Baker. You got to talk to Ben Baker. So anyway, and we did talk years ago. So migrated over here after I was part of a very small luxury team. I was with what was then called KW Park Cities, which became Midtown, and then the agent I was with was oftentimes the number one luxury producer in the office, and I was her buyer's agent. But it was me, her, and an admin. And So that's I got a crash course on real estate from a really strong producer very early on, and we made it work. But I was generating a lot of my own business after 2 years anyway. I have a lot of natural relationships. I am from Dallas, born and raised, so I've been here my whole life, and I have a lot of touches. Even though it's totally disorganized, even today it's very disorganized. And frankly, I do a very poor job of communicating with what I would call my sphere, and just kind of the way organically my business went, which I think is just most natural to me. Is I guess you would call it farming, but I think I definitely put my own spin on it, because I definitely don't do a lot of things that I should be doing when you listen to a lot of other people talk about farming. So somehow I found myself, I live in Addison, not far from the market center here. I, for whatever reason, as a child, I grew up going to eat there when Addison was, kind of a city born out of the 80s. It was kind of the restaurant row, and where people would go buy booze and they'd go to eat. There was a bunch of offices, and we had an airport. And really not a lot of housing, frankly. But after Baylor, Sikkim, yeah, I came back to Dallas and trying to figure out where I wanted to live, and I was just very impressed with Addison Circle. This was right around early 2000s, and Addison Circle at the time was one of the very first mixed-use developments in the United States that a lot of other cities around the country actually modeled after. Shops at Legacy and a lot of things in DFW all studied Addison Circle. So anyway, I was very impressed with that place because it was really cool, kind of like European, vibe. I used to live in Europe. I went to graduate school in Europe, actually. So I was just kind of attracted to the whole apartments on top of restaurants and this and that. And it was in an area that I was very familiar with, which was North Dallas, Addison. And anyway, so I kind of gravitated there to live after college. And to tell the story, I think, somehow I just, I follow current events, and I just started meeting people, and I signed up for this thing called the Addison Citizens Academy, which the city council and the management office, puts on every year, where you can go. It's like 3 or 4 Saturdays. You go and they teach you everything about the city. And so you get to meet all the people and this and that. And that's how I kind of started meeting people that were not in my college age demographic, that were homeowners while I was a renter in Addison Circle. I was a renter. But nonetheless, I just kind of started crossing paths with different circles. And so long story short, I wasn't even in real estate at that time, but, I get into real estate later. And at this point, my friends are, jokingly calling me Mr. Addison, because, anytime it would come up, I would just kind of go into this diatribe and spiel about, how much I love living here and what a great place it is to live, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that kind of, I guess, started to become my identity and my brand within Addison. And while I was on that team, I bought a house in the neighborhood I live in today. I've had 3 houses in the neighborhood now. I've kind of bounced around, but it's all within 1 square mile. That's the biggest neighborhood in Addison. There's really only 3 neighborhoods, but this one is by far the most dense. So strategically, it is a very good place to live. I don't think I could do nearly as well what I do if I had to drive to it, because I do live there, and because it's, very similar to you, Ben, because, I'm around it. It's more organic. and I do things that I probably otherwise wouldn't because I don't have to drive, frankly. Um, so I'm out walking my dog. I'm running into people. I'm meeting neighbors that way. I'm in my political circle with different people, and different people have different thoughts about Addison politics. These are the early years. And meanwhile, I'm starting to do a couple transactions of neighbors, and they're neighbors talk to neighbors, and really, I think really that's because I do not advertise as I should, or I don't do any of that. I really think it's the word of. I think I'm a loud, energetic type person for a lot of people, and I think neighbors talk ultimately. And so I would say I have, I've developed kind of key relationships on every single street throughout the city. And I do, even though it's not really systematized, I do talk to these people throughout the year, even though, again, it's just kind of organic. And as I think about it, I don't really do it in a smart way. I could be much smarter, but needless to say,
Dave, that's the reason why you're here, is
yeah.
because one, I love you, my brother. And um, affectionately, you're known as Mr. Magoo because you bounce around with like no rhythm, and yet you're the most efficient, most productive individual agent really we have, because you and I both know Brad Johnson's business is nothing like ours. And yet you do it at a high level. And I want you to, again, go backtrack just a minute, only a minute. This whole Citizens Council, how did that lead to you actually getting on the city council, right? And again, I think that's what the viewers would love to, they didn't know that. They'd love to hear that. And again, how that's also supported your business, because you are truly now, Mr. Addison, you've been voted probably 10, 12 years. I know you've been the number one producing agent in that city. So speak to that briefly, because I think that's important to the story.
Sure. Well, yeah, I was never looking to get into politics. Somehow I
Yeah.
just found myself in it. And let's see, how did that happen? Again, I just kind of had these different relationships that I were all kind of new at the time when I was getting into real estate, and I was looking for business, so I was probably I had less business I was doing at the time, so I was maybe a bit more strategic at the time with kind of trying to grow those relationships. And I think everybody that gets into politics usually has some sort of like issue that they um, you know
Yes.
take interest in. And I can't remember. There's a number of things going on, but I think um,
And
you
how
know
long did you hold that seat?
one term,
Okay, one term. Okay.
one term,
Okay. That was
one
enough.
term,
Okay.
one term, one and done. I'm
Okay.
retired. I'm retired from politics for life. So
Now, let's speak to this, because again, I do think, and you would agree that that supported your business, and definitely your, you know, even before branding, was important to us, before we truly knew what social media and all that was, you were doing it. And let's speak to your success within a 1 square mile area of each other. I mean, of where you live. I think that is the key topic today, because I want everyone to know that this is a gentleman here who, one, he owns his territory, and seldom ever do you have to drive outside. You don't even have to drive. You could probably walk from listing to listing. How has that manifested itself, David? Because it's so crazy when many of us, I see dear friends of mine, Joanna, and I see Monique, and I see Ray. I see these folks, they might have to go to the north side of San Antonio, Midtown, South End. Your business is all within a bike ride of each other, right? How has that happened, and how do you keep it so synchronized right there? Talk to me.
yeah, it is within a bike ride. I am going to get a moped just because I want to zip around a little quicker. Um, so I am going to get a moped, and I'm going to paint it blue because the Addison color is blue.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't think I would do what I do if it wasn't so uh, easy. in terms of geographically. I do have a bit of ego. I do have like a competition in my mind. I do get annoyed when I see other real estate signs. So it's kind of like a game for me. It's like I need to see more David Heape. And I had no shame in making my signs. It just says David Heape really big on the sign. Really big. So, it's for as many people as say nice things about me, I definitely have my fair share of haters, no question. And politically, I pissed a lot of people off, frankly. But what I have come to realize is only about 10% of the people vote, and most people have no clue, frankly, what's going on with any of that.
Yes.
But that did allow me while I was in politics. So I have real estate signs up everywhere. I have open house signs up everywhere, and I had campaign signs up everywhere. So compound that over many, many years, and compound that with me out walking around and talking to my key relationships on different streets who have been there a long time and that also have their own relationships. And people have block parties and this and that. And sometimes I just show up to other little events that I get called like pop-up events, but I'm not necessarily even organizing them. I'm just showing up as a neighbor. And then, it's kind of, it's kind of funny. I do kind of get funny reactions when people meet me for the first sometimes, like, "Oh, you're David Heape." And like everybody knows me because like you can't avoid you can't avoid it. And like I always now when I introduce myself to somebody in the neighborhood, I make it a point to say I'm David Heape, and I say my full name because I want them to let that sink in. And then usually without me saying, "Why do I?" So usually. So that's how I know it kind of works. So, I guess to me, it's just a game of mind share and then, being likable. But I think also, I do think I truly am the most competent person in the city in terms of not just real estate, but also everything ancillary around it in terms of all the amenities to do. We have an athletic club. I can tell you that it went through a $5 million renovation 2 years ago, and they upgraded it with this style of equipment, and they changed one of the tennis courts to a pickleball court, and they just built $100,000 awning that goes over the pickleball court. And believe me, everybody loves pickleball, even though I don't know how to play. And this and that. So like I can talk circles around everybody in current events and just things going on, and I just find it naturally interesting because I just stay up with it. Anybody could do it in any city. It's easier in Addison maybe because we are so small. There's still, even with a small city, it's only 4 square miles and 15,000 residents, which only about 10% are owner occupied. So it's the inventory is not much, but the number of things to talk about is it's endless. So pick whatever area you want, and you can always find things to talk about. And I just own those conversations better than I think most people. And in open houses and when I'm interacting with people, I think that just comes through organically without me trying. And I think that's probably the connection point I would make, that just comes naturally to me, because I just talk about what I know and what I like. And I think people I think for most people, it tracks well.
So what I heard was be informed. If you're working an area, know about that area, because that's what's going to resonate with your tribe. Because David knows, Addison for sure. Okay. That we've settled. Now, let's speak on something that is so unique. I'd say to Keller Williams, because we've got so many opportunities here in this company, from sports and entertainment to luxury, to pride, to military. You stumbled on the adult ADHD group, right? So, and again, those in this office who know and love you know that, you're on medication, aren't you?
No, that's part of the problem.
Okay, you're not. Okay.
Okay. I should be. I forget to take it.
You're okay. You're okay. So, Dave, speak to that. What is that group called? And because somebody here knows somebody who could probably benefit from that. Talk to me. What is that all about?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I was diagnosed when I was in Addison when I was 5 years old in school with ADHD, and I was, it was not as widespread as it is today, and I would say there's a lot of challenges that come with it, but I think there's also some strong benefits, and like I can, like if I'm interested in something, I can super obsess with it and hyper focus on something, probably to the level many people cannot if I'm interested. And I would say that you know, I I would say I to that point, I start a lot of things that I never finish. I have a lot of balls up in the air, and I think part of it is just seeing what sticks, and by having a lot of balls up in the air, some stuff sticks and some stuff doesn't. But yeah, I found I've had multiple maps coaches over the years. I've been fired and passed off, and I've kind of lost interest in some of them and moved on. And anyway, I somehow I don't even remember, but I got connected with a guy that started KW ADHD, and he's got a whole Facebook group now on it. It's not just KW; it's open to any agent, any brokerage, and basically it's you know talking about a lot of the same things we do in Keller Williams, like business planning and lead generation and this and that, but basically how to do it in the style that is more effective for our brain chemistry. And and in typical fashion, I forgot all about it, and I haven't been part of the group in 6 months. But I think it's fantastic. Like, but my mind is always wandering.
It is, guys. I tell you, if you were in this building, you put more steps in, I think, than anybody, because I think that's how you think. I know that when David is lapping this office, you're thinking, you're contemplating, you're working on something. So
that's right.
Right. I think whatever it takes. And again, I don't want the point to be lost here. It doesn't matter if you have a hard time focusing, if you have adult ADHD, it doesn't really matter. At times, I think I do. You can still get things done, because this gentleman right here that we're looking at is really the most productive individual agent we've got in this office, of over 600, right? So I think hyper focus. I think that when you're focused, David, I know you well enough. When you're focused, man, things happen. You get things done. But it has to be here. It can't be all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I would say, in summary, I would say, and this is what I've realized about myself over the years. I would describe myself as like a hunter. I love the chase of real estate. I love to go out and like hunt the leads, reel them in, and then I where I'm lacking is I really need somebody to really take over and give a better experience, because I would like to deliver a much better experience. I think the consumer still thinks it's a pretty good experience, but it's not a good experience to me, and I know what's really going on a lot of the times. But I think the consumer, it works, but it's very messy.
Yes. And I would agree. And I know you struggle. We've talked about it. And again, I think it's important for folks to hear that you really don't have an assistant. You've gone through numerous assistants, right? You're trying a new model now. Hopefully, maybe.
Well, I do have Jan in the Philippines, who's been with me several years now, and he does kind of keep the glue and the back end together, with many things. So no, I don't want to say I don't have any support, and I do have a transaction coordinator as well that's taken over contract to close.
Yes.
To kind of streamline that, just so there's not bottlenecks there. But yeah.
And again, I think many of us have transaction coordinators, but I think with everything we do, that's just one thing that I don't need to be consumed with, because there's enough other things going on. You don't have buyers agents and listing agents, all that. I mean, you handle all of that, and to do it at the level you do it, I'm envious. I love the fact that I can call you a brother. I love the fact that both graduated from the same university. I think we do think alike in many regards. So the respect is definitely there. And I appreciate you joining us. I told you time moves so quickly. So now I'm sure there's probably one or two other things that you would love to share. So I'm giving you the floor. So what would that be, Dave?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think um, the one thing I am consistent about is working my open houses. I'm very consistent with that,
Yes,
and
you are.
I think that's to me that's the easy part. To me, I would much rather go show up and deal with people in front of me in real time. I don't even. I mean, I don't even again I don't even do the open houses well at all. Like I don't even bring any materials with me, any papers. A lot of times, half the time, all I'm doing is just showing up and talking to people. And if I like them and they like me, I'll usually just send them a text message on the spot. And if it sticks, it sticks. It's
Yes.
very unscientific.
It,
But I've closed probably 50 people off open houses just from like these 2-minute interactions where if I just feel good energy, I'll pursue it. But
yeah.
it's not systematic, which I wish it was. You know, uh,
Again, it's that's what we love about you, Mr. Magoo. We love it. Now, again, your open houses, even though you just show up, you've got tons of signage. And I think that it's so effective because again, it's Addison. Everything is so succinct. It's just a small area. And I'm
yeah.
talking,
Well, I mean, I've also, over the years, I mean, because I do it so frequently, like I have identified where I think the best places to put signs are out. I have neighbors that would have no problem with me, even if letting me use their yards to put directional signs. Like I, you know, I've earned that relationship right
yes,
just from doing it a long time. And
earned it.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so I do have a lot of supporters, that kind of cheer me on, I think, in the background. And
Yes.
um, I mean, it's definitely been, I think, just what do they say in KW? Time on task over time, something like that. Um,
Amen.
so yeah, it's yeah. There's a lot of room for improvement from David Heape, no question about that.
And with that being said, now let's again, with a few minutes we've got left, let's speak to 2025 because I believe that, I'd like to beat you, but I believe that you'll beat me. And being a
And Baker, that's a limited belief.
it is, but again, there's a challenge here in a competition to be the first MREA individual. And I think with your production, you can do it this year.
I think Brad's done it this year, but anyway.
Yeah, but Brad's not an individual, so that we know. Okay. So it's a goal of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's a goal. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to hit it. Actually, I'd love for us both to hit it together, but I want you to hit it. Now, we're going to have to, again, we know we've got to do a few things differently. And I think one of them for you should be this whole news cycle that we just talked about. So explain the craziness around that day. Come on now.
Oh, you mean watching the news?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I believe
Oh,
that again, we should probably limit some of that. But here's a
oh,
gentleman who spends way too much time, right?
oh
With
yeah. I mean, yeah.
TV and the news.
My like addiction while I'm at home is like having the news on in the background, all this negative news, which
Yes.
I just love it though. Like my mind, I do think it's I think they wire it. They create the news to suck us all in, and it's hard to stop watching it. And I've definitely fallen into those traps. I could just watch it for hours and hours and hours. I mean, I can tell you everything you want to know about this guy in New Orleans right now.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
But it's not really doing anything for my business, and it's not really doing anything for my mental space. But yet
Yes.
I've had year after year after year. I've actually put that on my list of things to stop doing it. I need to fast from the news. I think is how
Yes.
I say it. But I always find my way back. I always get sucked back into it somehow, and it's not good.
See, Dave, I think that's something that we should work on. Again, limiting that. Just like I shared with you, I'm a crazy person because I end every night watching Two and a Half Men. That's my wind down to bed, and I've got to get better at that. David shared that he's normally in bed around 9 o'clock. And for me, that's mind blowing because I'm 11:45 to 11:55, and I'd love to move that to 11. Right. So,
You can do it.
I, guys, is, the folks who are here today, there's, you can be an early person or a late person. I still think that we can be productive, but you got to know who you are. And David, he clearly knows who he is and where his bread is buttered. And that's why I love you. So, Dave, I can't thank you enough. Again, is there something else that I've missed? Is there another question that I should have asked you? And if so, what is it?
Oh, Ben, I think you've done a fantastic job here. You're in charge. You're in charge.
Monique actually asked if you do any client events.
Zero.
I know. Nothing. No.
Yeah.
And Dave, again, that's what we love about you. Even your marketing budget is like, right? So
yeah, it's not. Yeah, again, there's a lot of room for improvement with a lot of things.
There is.
It is. I agree. I mean, I look at myself from the outside sometimes, and I shake my own head. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on half the time. I'm just out. They call me Hurricane Heape. I'm out there stirring things up, and
Hurricane Heape.
Some of it sticks.
It does. And Janice shakes her head. And I mean, Kennedy, Monique, the guy is special. He is so special. And trust me, we're flying into Vegas together. And so David, hey, ESG, look for us, man, because this guy here, you also need to know him personally. He's a riot. He is Hurricane Heape. And my brother, I love you. I appreciate the time you've given us today. And guys, I hope that you got a nugget somewhere. And I think it's, what, you don't have to have this huge, crazy marketing budget plan. I think David shows that you can keep it simple. You can keep it tight. It's productive to go small to go big, right? Because David works in, when I tell you it's a tiny area, not even a mile, right? And he is the number one agent in that area, has been for a decade. And I don't believe that he'll ever lose grip of that learn that lesson, right? Success is simple, and David Heape shows that more than anybody. Am I correct, my brother?
That is correct.
Amen.
Very simple. Very simple up here.
That's it.